The first question we get when we're talking about AI is, does this matter for my brand? A couple answers to this right off the bat. We've all started to see generative AI results start to pop up into Google search. So this is when you do a Google search and at the top you get this search AI overview. Sometimes it says Google Labs, sometimes it says AI generated results. But all of that is what we're going to start to talk about today. So when this shows up in a search result, that is taking up so much real estate. We can see here when you're looking at the top of a SERP page, we've got that generative AI result. It covers the top third. Next up, all we can see there are those sponsored posts. So we actually do not have any organic results, traditional old school organic results showing up above the fold in these searches. So that means it's really important for us to be considering, how do I get my result into that generative AI result? And that's what we're breaking down for you today. The other thing we want to call out, and we're going to talk a lot about this, is you can start to see AI-based results in your Google Analytics now. This is one of our favorite things. We were digging around in Google Analytics a couple months ago. We started to see this slowly trickle in. If you are in GA4, it is under referral traffic right now by default. So when you're looking at your source mediums or your channel groupings, you'll find all of these under referral. We've got a screenshot here of a couple of these. Ours do say organic. We've started to set some custom channel groupings. If you have questions about that, find one of us after. We're happy to talk you through it. But what we love about this is we can see how many people are coming from these platforms. We can see how long they're spending on our site. What are they doing? And one of the things we've noticed with this traffic right off the bat is how highly engaged this traffic is. When you think about a GPT experience, for example, and you're in the platform and you're doing a search, your goal is to get your answer and get out of there. You are not there to have an experience. You're not there to jump into another website. It's really similar to social media when you think about what that user behavior is. I'm on Instagram. I'm there to scroll Instagram. I am not there to go off to some company's website. I do it if I really love the ad that I got or I've seen it a bunch of times, but you're there in the platform for the experience you're getting. So what we have noticed with traffic that's coming from different generative or different AI-based platforms is they are highly engaged and they convert at an incredibly high rate, which makes perfect sense. If you think about, like I said, that experience, you're there to get your answers. If you care enough to click on one of those results and you care enough to end up on that company's website, you are already really invested in what they do, what they offer, and the message that you're getting from them. So that's another reason we really want brands that we're working with to hone in and focus on this generative AI and AI-based traffic. So we're going to break down a couple SEO myths today. And then we're going to talk about how do we make sure that our content shows up there. So the first one is SEO doesn't matter anymore. As we're looking at this, people are like, well, generative AI is the new thing. Social search, we've all heard about it. The user experience is happening in other places. So SEO doesn't matter. We all know what I'm going to say about this. If you've worked with Blue Compass before, we're really big on SEO. That's not the truth. But let's break it down a little bit better. So what do we know about those results that are on page 1 of search? Literally making us do a poll here quick. What is the average word count for results ranking on page 1 of search? Throw out what you think the answer is. I do promise it's in this list. I'm not trying to be tricky. Holly says 742. I heard 329 over here. Okay, we've got a whole variety. What I did not hear was anything in the thousands. Guys, content that ranks on page 1 of Google has 1,447 words on average. This is really big. This means that the content we're writing needs to be valuable. If you are writing a page that long, we cannot just throw words up on the page. We need to be breaking it down. We need to be using SEO best practices. And this goes to show that what we do, what we write, and how we write it still really matters. This also helps us with, we are in meetings all the time and we hear from prospective clients, I want my pages short. I want people to be able to get my content in 15 seconds or less and get out of there. And while we understand that concept, this goes to show that we really need more content on those pages to make an impact. The way we like to think about it here is, how are AI bots, how are search results, how are any of these platforms supposed to know who you are, what you do, what you want to rank for, if you don't have keyword density with that content on those pages? Who was surprised by this? A lot of us. That's a lot. That also can feel overwhelming as a marketer, like thinking about everything we have to do in a day, and then you're thinking about the content you need to write, and I need to write that long of a page. We're going to go through some strategies to make this easier. I'm doing the same myth again. Nobody's surprised. SEO doesn't matter anymore. Let's talk about it one more time. What else do we need to know about this? I like to rebuttal with the question of, how do you think your content's going to end up in an AI result if we're not focused on SEO? Like, how does it get there? Thinking about it for a second. Good news, guys. It's SEO. All of our SEO best practices that you've been learning from Blue Compass over the last couple years, that's what plays into generative search results. All right, third time around. Are we ready? Just kidding. I won't make us do this one again. I got more. All right, myth number 2. These tips only work for ChatGPT. We did have ChatGPT in the title of this. I did mention ChatGPT a couple times in this conversation, only because it's my personal preference. It's the one I use every day. That is not true. We have also had clients tell us, I hear you, but I don't want to invest all this time and energy that you're talking about into ChatGPT specifically. Good news. This isn't just for ChatGPT. There are so many, I'll get that in a second. There are so many AI bots that are out there right now that are impacting your content, that are crawling your websites. This is literally just a short list right here of all of the platforms that we're going to be talking about today. And the best practices that we're going through cover all of these. It's very similar to when we're talking about SEO best practices, and we usually reference Google as a company. It's only because Google's the most strict with what they allow and what they accept. So we go off of the strictest guidelines. That way we can be in every other search engine that we're talking about. Myth number 3, we are losing traffic. All right, I understand the generative AI results at the top. That's taking up a lot of space. It's really designed so that people aren't clicking back to your web page. I hear you on that. If somebody's in ChatGPT or one of these other AI-based platforms that we just talked about, totally. They're not there, like we said, to come back to your website. So I understand this, but we're going to break it down. The 13.14% of all queries triggered that AI overview that we looked at the beginning. So 13%, that's up quite a bit. In January of this year, it was only 6.49. So we've more than doubled in the last 3 months. That's a lot. We know that's totally where search results are trending. But if we do the math on that, that means there's 86% of results that still do not have a generative AI result at the top. That's quite a bit. I did quote myself because I did the math, but I understand I didn't come up with a statistic there. Alrighty, so with these results, we still need to be focusing on SEO. We still need to focus on all of our best practices to make sure that we are showing up where we want to. But how do I do this? What SEO best practices matter most? This all sounds like it's going to be really technical and really cruddy to hear and not a fun Wednesday morning experience. Good news, we're going to break this down and make it really easy. So we've got a test for you right off the bat. If you've got your computer, you can do this right now. You can pop into ChatGPT, you can pop into any platform. We're going to show you how to look, can my site be crawled by these AI platforms? All you have to do is open one of those up, grab a URL from your website. It can be your homepage. It can be that baller blog that you just wrote that you really want your boss to see and you want to get good results. Anything like that, grab that URL, throw it into ChatGPT. You can say, give me a summary of this page. You can literally ask, can this be crawled? Throw it in your favorite AI platform. If it starts to give you results, and the key here is that your name is showing up in that really little gray circle. So we can see under there, it says Blue Compass's digital marketing agency. I'm not going to read all of this to you, but we can see twice in there, we have that gray bubble and it says Blue Compass. That means it is citing our own website and the URL that we directly put in there. If you are not getting that experience, if you're in a basic ChatGPT or one of the other platforms, you might hear your page cannot be crawled and it'll give you something like that. In the pro version, if you run your site, we were trying to find something that we knew wasn't crawled. We're going to come back to the New York Times in just a minute here. But we asked for a summary of this page. All of these platforms are getting more and more advanced. We picked the Met Gala. We know there's a ton of information out there about that. When we put this in, the New York Times is not allowed to be crawled. How do we know? Each of the sources that it put after this result are not tied to the New York Times. So I asked for a specific result on this page. All of these AI platforms are going to give you something else. They are designed to keep people here, keep people happy with their platform, just like our search engines are. So if your content's not available, somebody else's is. And this is proof that they're going to show somebody else's content and just instead of just saying that yours isn't available. So this comes down to, as marketers, what do we care a lot about? We really want a lot of brand recognition. We need impressions. We need people to know our name, know who we are, know what we do. So if you're not there, somebody else is going to be. And the competitive side of me that we know we all love to show up at the top of those pages, we also want to be showing up here when somebody's looking for our products or services that we offer. We don't want to give that real estate to somebody else. So how can we show up here? What do we need to do? The first reminder that we have is evergreen content is critical. As we think about what these AI platforms are made to show, they are not recrawling, re-indexing, putting new things into their algorithm every single night. They are, but it's probably not our content that they're focused on every single night. So that means as we're processing our content calendar, what do we want to be writing about in 2025? If our focus is AI-generated content, we need to think long-term. What are things from our brand that are going to be valuable for months and months to come? This evergreen content is what's going to help us have not only show up in these AI platforms, but also start to rank for a long time, get good results, get good engagement time. So, Katrina, what is evergreen content? It is not dependent on recent events. We're not talking about press releases here. We're not talking about news stories. We're talking about information or opinions from your team that are likely to stand the test of time. So we want to focus on thought leadership with this. Drew's going to talk to us about a lot of great tactics of how we can make our brands more visible, how we can consider our websites in a new light and use them in a new way. And one of the things he's going to be talking to you about is authority. This is a great first step in that Drew's going to really pick up the torch on in his presentation. But we want to come across as thought leaders. We can't just regurgitate the same information that everybody else is talking about. We need to be able to take a stance. We need to talk about why our opinions are different and what makes your brand stance unique in the marketplace to get extra eyes and to really show up when people are asking some of these questions. When we were looking at that ChatGPT result for the Met Gala or even the Blue Compass result, there was a lot of results in that page. They were pulling from multiple resources on our websites. They were pulling multiple subtopics within that. And this is why it's important to have that thought leadership well-rounded across our websites. So, how can AI help us with this? AI can help you. We're doing a 2-for-1 here. We're not only talking about how to rank in AI, we're talking about how AI can save us time in our marketing here. So AI can help you with brainstorming topics and keywords for your content. I know when you're in a role and you've been with a company I've been at Blue Compass for 12 years. Sometimes it's hard for me to think of a new way for us to talk about SEO. Been talking about it 12 years. We need something fresh. We need something new. That's when we pop into one of these AI platforms and we say, crawl our website. What are 3 new hot takes that we can have on this topic? ChatGPT is going to give you a bunch of options, or any AI platform that you choose to use is going to give you a bunch of options as to what else you can talk about, what's a fresh spin. It's going to give you some seasonal, some non-seasonal. Tell it what you like, anything that you can do in that platform to re-engage with it. Then it's going to start to give you better results time after time. It can also help you with content structure. As you're thinking about, okay, what questions do I need to be asking? How do I want to develop this outline? It can give you a lot of recommendations for how to lay this out. It can take some of that legwork and that guessing game out of what do I need to be thinking about as I'm putting my page together. It can also help you with proofing and tone. We like to call it RELF. We have an internal AI tool that we use here. We've uploaded our brand guide. We've uploaded a lot of our specific things to our company. So most of you have a brand guide. Most of you have editing tools and best practices that you follow as a brand. Pick a specific channel that your entire team is using together. Upload your brand guide. Throw your blog in there and say, edit against my brand guide. For example, ChatGPT always uses Oxford commas and em dash. We do not have those approved in our Blue Compass specific brand guide. If we use our BC brand guide in our ChatGPT 4, it'll take out all Oxford commas, it'll take out all em dash, it'll help us with tone, and it'll even point out areas where maybe I accidentally used first person in my article, and that's a no-no against the Blue Compass brand guide. It's going to give me recommendations on how to make that better fit. So it's all about using these tools to not take over what you do, but to supplement some of the things that should be easier and faster. Question from the back.
Team at Blue Compass, or like, how much are you guys utilizing AI right now?
The question was, how much is the Blue Compass team utilizing AI for content right now? Great question. We are not using AI to write any content at this point in time. Given that Google has released, I think it was late last year, and they said AI content could potentially penalize your website. There's a bunch of spam results about it. They don't want people just copying and pasting things straight out of AI. So we actually don't use it for any writing. We only use it for content planning, like we're talking about here, as well as content editing. Idea generation, great. I don't know what to say about this. Give me a couple ideas. Or I have this question, I don't know how to answer it. Give us those ideas. Take out that writer's block, for lack of a better term, that you can sometimes end up in as a marketer. But that's all we use it for here. So it makes us faster. It takes out the guesswork. If I'm not having a hot writing day and I need to write an article, it helps me break through that, get through that, and then proceed with my own creative expertise that I can bring to the table. Another question. Yeah. The question was, how can we see what queries are starting to get more generative AI results on them? It can be hard as a marketer to know where to look for that stuff. Our team specifically uses SE ranking. It is a paid tool that we use. They have some free options. I'm not sure if this specifically is included in the free option, but that's one that we use, and it gives us a lot of information about each search query. And so it tells us what type of intent the audience has. And then my favorite part of it is what features are on that page. So not only is it telling us about generative AI results being on that query, it tells us, is there a map pack on that? Is there an FAQ? Is there a people also ask? It really breaks down that page for us without us having to go into incognito window and search every single query that we're thinking about for that. So that's our best practice. I know SEMrush has something similar for any companies in the room that use that. But those are the two that we're most familiar with that we use on a regular basis. I wouldn't be surprised if Moz comes out with something soon if they don't already have it, but that's just not one I've been in the last year. Another question. The question is, how soon do we think people are going to start using ChatGPT or AI-based searches instead of using Google search? Great question. We've still got a couple years. Reason being, right now, those results are so informational. So it's really that top of the funnel information. They're not able to take you the entire way through a purchase journey. The second there is some offering in these AI-based platforms for you to purchase in platform, that's when we have to start worrying about losing traffic. But right now, it's all informational based, like I said, top of the funnel from a marketing perspective. So we're not worried about losing that altogether right now. But what that means for your brand is that you need to care a lot more about your branded searches. You can care about non-branded. If somebody's searching for SEO Des Moines, I still want Blue Compass showing up for that. But a lot of the time what that means is people are learning who they want to work with. They're learning more about the services, what better questions they need to ask. They're finding all of that in AI. And so that by the time they're moving back to search, they already know your brand name. They already know who they want to be looking for specifically. So that's why we're hearing all these headlines in the world that branded search is the new SEO. These were great questions. Keep shouting them out. We're loving this. Okay, the next thing. I know I said this wasn't going to be hard. I know this looks a little intimidating, but one of the best ways that you can get your content ranking in AI-based platforms in that generative AI overview that we showed at the beginning of the presentation is through schema. What is schema? I like to call it the too long didn't read for bots. So it's taking everything on your page, it's spitting it out into a really easy to read for bots code format. Most of us aren't going to be able to do this. Work with somebody who can. If you have a developer who does front end, they can do this really easily. This code is written how most websites are coded. So this isn't even something you need to hire an agency for. We're here to help you if you need it, but schema is a really great way to do this. One of the questions we normally get from clients is like, how are you adapting our strategies based on AI search? At this point in time, Blue Compass is really proud to say we don't have to adapt yet because we've been doing page-specific schema for all of our clients for over 3 years now. So we're ahead of this curve. We're ahead of where we need to be, and we're making sure all of our clients' content can show up based on this schema result. So just how do I know what I would use schema for, what we could talk about? You can list your organization. If you own sub companies, example, Blue Compass owns West 48. We can tie all of those entities together. Salmons, Midland, North American. There's so many ways that you can tie all of your sub brands into a single organization. Why do we care about that? You can only have one domain ranking so many times in a single page or showing up in a single generative AI result. This is a way for us to associate all of our brands together. If we have Blue Compass ranking for something and West 48 ranking for the same type of thing, we can take up twice as many spots in a search result, so it's super beneficial. Local business. Whether you truly are local or national, there's ways for us to use local business schema. We can talk about the service radiuses you offer. So many great things here. You can have your articles showing up faster. You can have your blog showing up faster. Services, products. There are so many different ways to use this. FAQs. I love it when we have our clients showing up in those people also ask sections. FAQs is how we get there. There's so many little hacks that we can help with to really show up where we need to. Breadcrumb, event, job posting, all of these things are super valuable. If you guys are looking to recruit people, job posting schema. There's ways to get into all of those fancy things that we're seeing in SERP results. Next up, a little bit easier one, scannable content. So when we hear somebody say, I want somebody to be able to understand my page in like 15 seconds or less, this is our go-to. We still need those 1,000 words on the page, like we talked about, since that's what shows up on page 1. But writing scannable content really helps both humans and bots understand your page better. So what does this mean? We want to be able to read the entire page, understand what we're covering without having to read every single word on that page. So it's when we break up our content, we've got heading tags, we've got maybe numbered lists, bulleted lists, anything like that. And so that's how we get into this. The funny thing about this, it just feels like a good experience. Like we all want to be able to skim a page, understand what we're getting into before we start investing our really valuable time into that content. But this also helps dramatically from an SEO perspective. Having those heading tags, H1, H2, H3, bump it back out to an H2. We always go in chronological order because we care about ADA compliance, and that's how screen readers work. Having those bulleted lists, having those numbered lists, all of those things give you little micro boosts from an SEO perspective, as well as micro boosts to show up for your content in AI-based results. So it's really just offering a good user experience by making your page easy to read. And then you want your most valuable, your most critical content within the first couple paragraphs. At Blue Compass, we have a rule that we need at least 2 of our keywords to be showing up in the first 100 words that are on the page. So we're really carefully crafting what is that intro, what is that thing right at the beginning to make sure all crawlers know and humans know what we're talking about on this page. All right, last tip for us today, check your directives. So this looks scary. I promise it's not. This is actually from the New York Times. The New York Times has all bots, all AI bots, blocked from their crawler. So when we looked at that screenshot about the Met Gala, 0 content from the New York Times is going to be able to show up in one of those. They're not going to be able to show up in generative AI. They obviously have a lot of good brand awareness, but because we're nerds around here, Blue Compass is actually watching some brands that we've seen take this stance and make this choice and start to observe, are they going to start to lose a little bit of notoriety in the marketplace when they are actively choosing to go against the trend of what's going to get them visibility and what's going to give them search? We understand why some brands are choosing to do this. They don't want their content available. They don't want it to be able to be misrepresented or taken, put a couple headlines in here and there. But really understanding how to prevent that from happening and making sure your pages are well written for AI, it's going to make a huge difference in the next 5 years of how much visibility, how you're able to use your web entities, and it's going to tie a lot into what Drew's going to be walking you through here after the break. So what do we actually want this to look like? You want not a lot of things under your disallow. It's okay to have a couple things. This is an example of Blue Compass. This is one of our more robust ones. We actually try to keep this really clean, really simple from a Blue Compass perspective. And then the thing we see people miss most is having that link to their sitemap in here. Why do we care about that? The sitemap allows a bot or an AI engine to crawl every single page on your website that you've said you want available for crawling. So we're actually giving them the keys to the website kingdom by doing this. They're able to see every page that we care about at a moment's notice. So this is really valuable. As marketers, we don't need to know how to do this stuff. We just need to know to call our IT guys, say, this is the picture of what I want, and I'd like you to make that happen on my website. So they take care of all that for us. That's why we love David and Carrie. All right, what other questions do we have about AI? What do we have for us.
What effect does AI content have on your website's SEO?
What effect does AI content have on your website's SEO? Since AI best practices to show up in those platforms and SEO best practices really do go hand in hand, it's a no-brainer. You're doing really well executed SEO. You're getting really valuable AI-based traffic. So we just like to say, put them together. Think about them as one single entity for the moment. We need to care about both these things if we care about showing up in the future. So it's a one-stop shop in our opinion. We don't customize our strategies outside of that without looking at evergreen content. Yeah. The question was, at one point we heard there's going to be schema specifically for AI. Correct. What I showed was standard JSON LD-based schema. So as we're looking at what's available, David's telling me I need to move back over. I'm on it. Thank you, David. As we're looking at schema that matters for AI, but maybe not search, there's a lot right now that is available. Like if you go to schema.org, there's thousands of options in there. The difference of what we're seeing is AI platforms are picking up some that maybe Google results aren't sponsoring. So there's hundreds of schema options that are not tied to a specific SERP result right now. I'm not thinking of an example off the top of my head. Kaylee might be able to help me come up with an example of schema that wouldn't help you in a SERP, but would be available through schema.org. She's thinking in the background over there. But there's a lot of those out there right now. So we at Blue Compass take the stance, if there's a schema available for it through schema.org, we're going to use it. We're going to post about it. And that's the stuff that's helping us from an AI perspective right now that might not help us in a search result page. So it's really about going as robust as you possibly can. There's nothing at the moment outside of directives. You could specifically list all of the AI bots and you could say specifically allow. Obviously, that's kind of just clogging up your robots.txt. But if you feel the need to take that extra step, list the bots that you care about, that's one way to do it from a directives perspective. Other than that, from schema at the moment, it's just about supporting schema that's not necessarily tied to Google results at this point in time.
I'm just thinking, oh, go ahead. You can ask. Oh, I was just thinking about, we have a lot of clients here today or people visiting that have a lot of locations. Is there something you can do with schema to denote that you're all one, but you have many locations, things like that? Or how do you tell what type of schema to use? Is that something you should know, or do you have to ask somebody that knows what's going on?
Great question. So 2 questions here. I'm going to start with the first of location schema. There are a lot of options for location schema. We actually work with a bank. They obviously have a bunch of in-person locations. They've got a bunch of drive-thrus. They've got a bunch of ATMs. On their website, we updated all of their locations pages. We implemented a lot of custom location-specific schema. And so in that, we're thinking about showing what are the hours that each specific location's open, what type of accessibility do they have, like the stuff that's in your GBP profile, if you opened it and you clicked and you took the time to sort out every single box that's in there, all of that stuff we can also tie into schema. They actually emailed us about a week and a half later and they were like, we're already seeing an uptick in foot traffic, so the schema's working. So this stuff actually does make a difference. Google's able to read that. They're able to make your GBP more robust if you don't have time to do that yourself. They're also able to show you in a different way in the Maps pack by having both location schema and an optimized Google business profile. So this stuff does matter. This stuff does help. In regards to the second half of that question of how am I supposed to know what types of schema to use? First thing you can do, if you go to one of your competitors' websites and you inspect or view page source, and just like I'm a Mac girl, it's going to be obvious here, but I Command F, search for schema. I Control F maybe on a PC. Let's not get into that. I'm going to embarrass myself. But looking at that, what types of schema are your competitors using? That's a really great place to start with. We want to make sure we're at least matching them and meeting them. The other resource would be to search on schema.org. And there are hundreds of thousands of options on that website, or you can talk to somebody who's either a developer or an agency that you work with. I'm sorry, go ahead.
You spoke about using AI to help supplement the development of content. Can you speak a little bit about how much you can use to supplement the development of content before you may run into copyright issues?
Yes, absolutely. So we really try to only use it for our outlines and editing. The problem is if you're using it to develop a content, so if you say like, find me an intro paragraph for this specific topic, all of these AI-based platforms are only reliant on what's already available out there. So they're taking something that already exists and then they're turning it into something for you. So there's automatically, if you're thinking about like the duplicate content rule and schema, it's already going to be over that 80% similar to something else that's out there. So if you choose to do that, or you need to, because we're all busy, we understand that, it's really important to go through and then make it your own from there. So if you take the time to go through and say like, this isn't how we would say that, or we want to take a different stance on this section, and you customize from that perspective and you're really thorough about that, that would be a way around it. But it's important to be as careful as you can with that. We've seen too many times it's easy to say like, oh, that sounds really good. I like that. I think I would say that. But in reality, if I wrote it out by hand and I didn't have that in front of me, it would just naturally sound a little different. So that's why we prefer to only use it for editing. I can't give you a specific percentage because we don't know exactly how these algorithms work, but it's a hard rule in our office for not using it to generate unless we're using it for idea generation. I can repeat it. Just go.
Thank you. I have a question from one of our virtual attendees. They
Okay.
asked, if you're asking questions or having AI or ChatGPT analyze data, how does this affect proprietary information?
Can you say that for me one more time?
Sure thing.
Thank you.
If you're asking questions or having AI or ChatGPT analyze your data, how does this affect proprietary information?
Okay. So in this instance, I'm interpreting that, like, if I was doing this as Katrina, as a member of Blue Compass, I would be uploading some of my data sets into ChatGPT and asking it to spit information back out to me. If that wasn't your intention, message again and Kaylee will read me an updated version. But if that's what we're thinking about here, we really do need to check in with our IT and security teams. For example, at Blue Compass, David has us trained really well. We do not upload our own data into ChatGPT. If we want to do that, we have a different one that we use that's locked down and not available to the outside. Because every time I, as Katrina, run something through ChatGPT, it's taking that information, it's learning from it, and it's using that to power different results for not just me, but other people as well in the algorithm. So if there is something proprietary that you know your team wouldn't allow you to send via email, that's a pretty good rule to say, I probably shouldn't run this through an open source AI-based platform. There's closed source AI-based platforms, so you can utilize something like Copilot that's in your organization, things like that. So your IT team should have a couple options for you of what's closed, locked down, that they have full control over, that would not be feeding into an AI-based platform. Those are going to be safer for those data points and things that you wouldn't want shared publicly. David, did I do you proud on that one? He said, yes, I got a thumbs up. I'm currently not up to date on my security training, so maybe I'll get a little bit less in trouble with David after this.
You mentioned the 1,400 words as what the vast majority of page one listings were. Is that a best practice for all pages, or is that just for AI results?
Thank you. We would say any page content that's talking about products, services, or blogs. So your homepage shouldn't be that long. That's a whole lot of words. The goal of your homepage is really to feed people into a different page, get them somewhere else on your website. The goal of your contact page, just to get them in touch with somebody in your organization. So pages that are really used to get somebody somewhere else or get them to a final destination, those are pages that we do not need that high word count on. But if we want it ranking in AI, we want it ranking in Google search, we want something like that, that's where we need that higher word count. All right, we're going to cut off questions so we can stay on time today. We are going to do another round of the giveaways really quick, and then we are going to head to break.